Welcome, my friends. My name is Mary. This is Mindful Movement with Mary. Today I have a gentle yoga practice for you that focuses on finding comfort and support through the lower back. Low back pain is one of the biggest physical complaints in America, and we spend millions of dollars every year trying to alleviate this lower back pain. But the good news is that we have a lot of recent studies showing that gentle yoga can actually be really effective at preventing and treating lower back pain. So today we're going to be focused on finding stability and support through the lower back and core, and then finding flexibility and mobility in the tissues adjacent to the lower back, which is also really important for low back health. For today's practice, you're going to need 2 blocks, 1 strap, 1 blanket, and at the end of class, you'll need a chair. So find a chair that does not have wheels, so one of those desk chairs with wheels will not work. A folding chair or a dining room chair should be just fine. All right, so before we get started, please take a moment to look in the description below this video. Please support my work and subscribe to this channel. We're going to get started laying down on our backs on the mat, and we are going to be laying down for a little while. So I invite you to take your blanket and unfold it so it's a long rectangle to give yourself a little bit of extra cushion as we lay down. So you could have maybe you have a second yoga mat at home. You could always just double up your mats, or you could just use one. This is just a little nice adjustment if your low back is especially tender today. And as we lay back, make sure you have your strap and 1 block within arm's reach. All right, so laying down on the back, bending the knees and stepping the feet a little bit wider than hip distance apart. Lean the knees in to touch. And we'll just settle in here in this constructive rest position. You can have the hands on the lower belly or down by your sides. And just take a moment here to set aside everything you don't need for the next hour. Maybe you have a mental to-do list or some worries and frustrations. They'll be waiting for you later, but you don't need them right now. Just try to relax the body, feel soft and heavy laying on the ground. Often when we are experiencing some back pain, it can be very emotional. It's stressful, both in the body and in the mind, to be having pain every time you move. So just take a moment to acknowledge that if you have been experiencing back pain, just to try to relax. You are safe here. Sometimes just breathing and relaxing is enough. Laying on your mat and breathing might be your practice today. But if you're ready to move, and of course, as with any yoga, make sure that your doctor has said it's okay for you to be moving around if you are experiencing some acute low back pain. So if you're ready to move around, we're going to start to separate the knees, but keep the feet wide. And gently rock the knees side to side. So a little windshield wiper movement here. And start small, and you may stay small today, just a few inches side to side. Or you may start to make the motions a little bit bigger if that's comfortable for you. Starting to bring some blood flow, some motion into the hips. Good. And then finding an ending for that. Bring the knees and feet in to neutral, and we're going to bring the knees up into the chest. So you might want to hug them in, take a deep breath. And then float the knees so that they're a little bit further away from the chest. So they're not hugged in as far as you can, and they're not neutral, they're not over the hips, but they're about halfway. And you're going to hold on to each knee. And just gently draw the knees away from the chest, just an inch or two, and then draw them back to the chest, an inch or two. So it's a very small movement. You're giving yourself a little massage on the floor. So it's a massage through the sacrum and the lower back. And you're exploring just the beginnings of range of motion here. And this is the first thing I do if I'm ever experiencing any back tension, is I just get on the floor and do this to see if I can figure out where it's coming from or what movements aggravate it. So a little back and forth. Good. And then placing the feet down. Let's hug the right knee in. And we're going to interlace the fingers behind the thigh today. And we'll begin to bring mobility into the hip and knee and ankle joint because it's all important. It's all part of this chain. So as you inhale, stretch the foot toward the sky. And as you exhale, bend the knee. And inhale, stretch the foot up. And exhale, bend the knee. And we're not trying to go for a straight leg here. So just go as far as it feels comfortable in the back. If you start to feel a pull through the hamstrings into the back, just don't go as far. Inhaling up, exhaling down, just beginning to move through the knee. And of course, the hamstrings attach around the knee, so they attach up in the hip as well. Everything's connected. Good. Maybe one more time, inhaling up and exhaling down, and then keep hugging that knee in. Let's take the motion into the ankle. So point and flex the ankle. A little point and flex. You might get some good cracking and popping here. And then we'll trace some circles with the ankle, maybe 3 times in both directions. So big circles. Good job. And then place the foot back down. All right, let's do the other side. Hugging that knee and interlace the fingers behind the thigh and begin that little knee range of motion. Inhale, extend the foot up. Exhale, lower the foot down. Inhale up. Exhale down. Again, don't be worried about how far you go. It's just a little motion here. Don't be concerned with straightening the leg all the way or making it look like the way I'm doing it. Just work with your body's range of motion today. Good. A couple more times. Inhaling up. Exhale down. Inhale up. Exhale down. Good. Keep hugging the thigh in toward the chest, and we'll go into the ankle. So point and flex the ankle. And then 3 circles in each direction. Tracing a big circle. Getting all the range of motion you can out of your ankle, your foot. Good. All right. And lowering down, step the feet wider than hip distance apart. And windshield wiper the knees again. You can bring the arms out into a T position. This is going to be our little home base that we come back to a lot of the time today with this windshield wipering the knees. Good. All right, stepping the feet back in. So find your strap. And today what I'm going to do is we're going to leave the left knee bent to start. So the left knee is going to stay exactly where it is on the floor. Hook the strap around the right foot and extend the right foot toward the ceiling. Try to relax the head and neck and shoulders down on the mat. And just feel the length up the back of the right leg. And feel what's happened to your lower back here. So do you feel like the lower back has rounded a little bit and is flat on the floor? Or can you maintain a neutral pelvic position? So there's a tiny lift under the lower back. So it's not a big arch. It's just a little bit. So I could slide a credit card underneath the lower back. So if that means that you need to lower the leg a little bit to maintain that natural curve, that's fine. So find a place where the pelvis can be neutral, which means that the low back can be neutral, but you're also getting a hamstring stretch. Good. One more breath here. Exhale. And then if you want, you can straighten the left leg. So straight out on the mat, if you want today, flex those toes toward the ceiling. Just for a couple of breaths here. But you could always keep the knee bent. That is a beautiful option. Again, return to that acknowledgement of a little curve in the lower back, a little arch, I should say, just the tiniest bit. And then bend the left knee again, place the foot on the floor. Take both halves of the strap over into the right hand, and we're going to open the leg to the right. So maybe you just open a little bit, and it helps to have the knee bent here and the foot on the floor. That's a nice option. You could also place a cushion or a block underneath the right thigh. So as the right thigh opens, you have a little support. But if you can open enough to get the elbow down, that will help, because then your elbow supports the strap, which then supports the leg. So we're stretching through the inner groin here on the right. These are the adductor muscles. They're very powerful muscles, and they go up into the hip, and they can pull the hip out of balance if they're really tight on one side, and therefore they can torque the low back. Good. On your next inhale, draw the leg back up to the ceiling. Now straighten the left leg again on the mat. Toes point toward the ceiling. Take the other halves of the strap, so both halves of the strap, over into the left hand. Now we're just going to do a little motion here today. We're not going to come all the way into the twist like we sometimes do. So extend the opposite arm on the floor, the right arm straight out in a T position, and just let the right leg cross the midline of the body. So I want to keep both hips down. So both hips are rooted to the floor, and you just bring the right leg across toward the left as far as you can while keeping both hips on the ground. You might begin to feel a stretch through the IT band, the outer hip, even the calf on the right leg. One more deep breath in. Exhale. And then inhale that leg back up to center. Good. Unhook the strap. Straighten both legs for a moment. See if you notice any differences. And we'll take this over to the left side. So start with both knees bent. Hooking the strap around the right foot. Extend the left foot, and extend the left foot to the ceiling. So the right knee stays bent and that foot's on the floor. And pausing here. Playing with how far can you lift the leg while still maintaining a neutral pelvis. So if you feel like you've really rounded and the tailbone is lifting, we want to avoid that. We want the tailbone to be long, shooting down toward the front of the mat. And there's a little tiny space underneath the lower back. So if you feel like you're overcompensating and really lifting the lower back off, don't do that either. Just a tiny, tiny lift. Good. Deep breath in. Deep breath out. And if you want to try extending the right leg so it's straight out on the mat. Toes point toward the ceiling. Stay really active in both legs. And again, return your attention to that lower back space. Good. Deep breath in. Long breath out. Then bend into the right leg again. Place the foot on the floor. Take both halves of the strap into the left hand. Extend the opposite hand on the mat. And just start to open the leg to the left. And you might come, I don't know, 6 inches or a foot, or you might come all the way down. Letting the forearm or the upper arm rather rest on the earth. That can really help support the leg. And notice what's happening to the opposite knee. Is it swinging way out to the side? Can you keep it pointing toward the ceiling? Good. Long breath in. Long breath out. And then your next inhale, lift the left leg back up to the ceiling. And then straighten the right leg so that leg is now pressing firmly into the earth. Take both halves of the strap over into the right hand. Extend the left hand on the mat. And just let the left leg cross over the midline of the body. Just a few degrees. Keeping both hips grounded. The backs of both hips stay on the earth. And breathe here. You might start to get all kinds of interesting sensations through the outside of the leg and hip. Good job. Next inhale, bring your leg back up to center. Remove the strap. You can set that aside. You don't need that anymore. And let's bring the knees into the chest. Little rock side to side. And then hold on to the knees. So each hand has a knee. You're not crossing the hands over. And we're going to trace some circles with the knees, but 2 independent circles. So inhale, draw the knees together, start to separate them away from each other, and then let them come toward the front of the mat, and then together and back toward you. So tracing circles with the knees, 2 circles. And they could be very small, or they could be a little bit bigger. Just play with what feels right to you today. And then reverse the direction. So go the other way, tracing circles with the knees. Good. All right, and then placing the feet down on the floor. Find your block. We're going to place the block in between the thighs. So a book would work just fine for that as long as it's a pretty wide book. And we're going to work on a little bit of core engagement because we can't talk about lower health without also talking about core health as well. But we're not going to do too much, just a little bit, just enough to activate and feel stability. So imagine that there is a ball, like a tennis ball or a massage ball, and it's in the middle of your pelvis. So lower belly, below the belly button, but it's inside the pelvis. So it's not just sitting on the top in the middle, it's inside the middle of you. And you're going to imagine that you're squeezing that ball. So it's a lower belly squeeze in from all sides, from all of your circumference, like a girdle, squeezing in to this ball in the middle of the pelvis. Good, and then release. Inhale to prepare. Exhale, squeeze the ball. And try not to squeeze the block or the hips as much. To really think about the lower belly, the internal muscles here, squeezing in. It's very hard to isolate this feeling. Good. Inhale, release. Exhale, squeeze. Inhale, release. And exhale, squeeze. So there will be a little squeeze to the block. That's why we have it there. A little squeeze to the hips, but really try to think about inside. Can you imagine squeezing this ball that is inside the pelvis? Good, and release. All right, so we're going to add on a second part to this. Inhale to prepare. Exhale, squeeze the lower belly. Squeeze that ball. And then tuck the pelvis. So you roll the sitting bones toward the front and up a little. So the tailbone's going to come up. You are flattening the lower back. You are curving the lower back into the floor. Good. And then release the curve, release the squeeze. Inhale to prepare. Exhale, squeeze the lower belly first and then tuck the pelvis. Inhale, release the pelvic tuck, release the lower belly squeeze. A couple more times. Inhale, exhale, squeeze the lower belly, tuck the pelvis. Inhale, release. Exhale, squeeze the lower belly, tuck the pelvis. Really draw the navel down toward the spine. And then inhale, release the pelvic tuck, release the lower belly squeeze. One more time. Exhale, squeeze the lower belly, tuck the pelvis. Good, and release. All right, we're gonna add a third part to this. All right, so placing the fingertips on the lower ribs here. I really want awareness to the lower ribs. We're going to be imagining that we're knitting them together and then pressing them down to the floor so we can get some upper core engagement here as we roll the shoulders off just an inch or two. So it starts with the same pattern we just did. Inhale to prepare. Exhale, squeeze the lower belly, tuck the pelvis, lift the shoulders and head just a little so as you gather those lower ribs down toward the floor. And then release. Inhale, release all three parts. Exhale, squeeze the lower belly, tuck the pelvis, lift up. And you can use the hands behind the head if you want, but really think about the lower ribs. Inhale, release the lower ribs, release the pelvic tuck, release the lower belly squeeze. Exhale, squeeze the lower belly, tuck the pelvis, lift the shoulders a little bit just so that you can push those lower ribs down. Good. Inhale, release. Last time. Exhale, squeeze the lower belly, tuck the pelvis, lift the head. Good. Inhale, release. All three parts. You can remove your block. Step the feet wider than hip distance apart, arms out in a T position, windshield wiper the legs. So it is a lot of engagement here, but hopefully that also provides a sense of support, a sense of strength, that you can move well in this area. Good. All right, so we'll do one last release for all of this tension that we may have gathered here in the back. So bring the knees together and then float them up like you're bringing your knees into your chest. And we're going to roll over to one side, stacking the knees and stacking the arms. So the head comes down. So the hands are palm to palm, arms are out straight. Inhale, begin to trace a circle with those top fingertips. They're going to come up and over the head. And as they open toward the back and they draw you into a twist, as the arm comes behind you, start to lift the knees up. They come back to neutral right over your body, and then let them fall to the other side. And as they fall to the other side, that back hand, the bottom hand, is going to sweep up and over, tracing the circle. And you're back on the other side now in the same starting position. All right, inhale, sweep the top arm around and back. And as it reaches back, let the knees come up and over. Let the top arm sweep up and over in a circle. And finish palm to palm. So a couple more times here using the rhythm of your breath. Just flow. It's a spiral-like moving twist. Reaching up and over. So it becomes this very dynamic, smooth, spiral-like motion to release everything. Good. And then the next time you come back to that starting position, pause there for a moment. Deep breath in, long breath out. And then using your hands, you're going to come all the way up to all fours. So you can take your blanket now and fold it up, because I know a lot of us like to have some extra padding under the knees when we're working on all fours. So maybe fold it up a few times. Good. And when you get here, shoulders over wrists and hips over knees. But we're not going to do cat and cow today because I want to maintain this sense of stability and strength we just created with that core work. So instead, inhale, send the right leg back behind you, toes press into the floor. Take your left hand now, bring it to the abs, bring it to those lower ribs just for a moment here and gather them up. So make sure you're not hanging down, the belly's not hanging down, there's no curve in the spine. Really want to gather the lower belly and the ribs toward the spine. Good, and you can lower the hand down. If you want, floating the back leg up just a little bit, so not as far as we usually go, but just a few inches, and hover. Gather those lower ribs in the lower belly up toward the spine to create a really strong, stable place in the back. Good, lower the foot down, and we'll try the other side. So inhale, send the left toes back behind you, press into the ball of the foot for a moment, get a calf stretch. Bring your hand, it helps to bring the hand, the opposite hand, into the ribs. That just brings awareness there that we can gather them up toward the spine. Good. And then float the back leg up just a couple inches. And by just floating a couple inches, we're having to work this whole chain through the back, the hamstrings, and all the muscles that run up on either side of the spine. Good. Lower down. Bring your knee back to neutral, and we'll try it one more time on each side. Sending the right toes back, float the right toes up. If you want here then, floating the opposite arm. So it's a version of spinal balance, just the legs a little bit lower today. And deep breath in, long breath out. Good, return the hand and knee back to neutral. Last time on the left, send the left toes back behind you. Float the foot just a few inches, and if you want here today, floating the arm till it's parallel with the floor. Spinal balance. This is my favorite go-to move for strengthening the lower back. And you could play here with the toes being very close to the earth or being almost parallel to the earth. So it's whatever you're working on. But wherever you are, gathering the lower belly, gathering the lower ribs up toward the spine. Good. Put the hand down, knee down, big toes to touch, knees apart. Sit the hips back into child's pose. Let the forehead come to rest on the earth. And take deep breaths and feel how the inhale can stretch the skin of the lower back. Feel a sense of openness, a sense of spaciousness. Then begin to lift the head, come back up to all fours, and find your blocks. You're going to place your blocks on their highest height under the hands and step the right foot up between the blocks or a little bit farther depending on your hips today. All right, so we're practicing low lunge today. So I'm just dropping the hips down, bending deeply into the front knee, and play with how far down you go today. So for me, I like to just rock gently up and down a little to play with how much range of motion I have in my hips. Good. And then come up so that your hips are over that back knee. So you're more up into this position where your legs are in a right angle. And draw the lower belly in. Let the tailbone be heavy toward the floor and feel the stretch in the front of the left hip here. Shoulders are stacked over hips. Spine is long. We want length in the lower back and openness in the hip flexors, which are the front of the hip. And if they're tight and short, they often cause low back pain. Good. All right, switching sides. So bring the right knee down, step the left knee far forward, the left foot, and bend deeply into that knee. So practice your low lunge here, letting the hips sink way down, bending deeply into the front knee. And play here with maybe coming up a few inches and down a few inches. And then coming all the way up so that your hips are stacked over that back knee. And gather the lower belly in, tailbone heavy toward the earth. Long spine, reach the crown of the head toward the ceiling. And a deep breath here, feeling openness through the front of the right hip. And exhale. Good. All right. So coming back, I'm going to tuck my toes under and sit back on my heels for a moment. So this is toes pose. It can be very intense. You can always come forward, keep your hands in the blocks if this is too intense. You can also take one block and place it on the calves and sit on that if you're having trouble coming all the way back. I actually feel like this is more pressure in the feet, but it's a little bit easier on the knees. So it depends on what your area of tension is. And we're stretching the bottoms of the feet because the fascia, which is the connective tissue that goes from the bottom of the feet, goes all the way up the backs of the legs, through the hips, through the lower back, and up the back to the forehead. So sometimes if we stretch out one area of that chain, we're going to get some release through the whole chain. Good. One more deep breath in here. And exhale. Good. All right, coming forward, we're going to face the long side of the mat here. We're going to do a little bit of a side lunge. So I'm going to keep my right knee where it is on the mat and step the left leg out to the side. Turn the toes so they point to the short edge of the mat. So this whole leg is the left leg's in external rotation here. And you're going to place a block on any height to the inside of the foot. Make sure that the heel of that left foot is in alignment with the knee of the right leg. So this knee of the right leg is my standing leg, my firm base here. Let's place the hands on the hips. Inhale, reach the crown of the head toward the ceiling. Exhale, you're just going to lean to the side. So hinging to the side toward the left side and bringing the left hand down to the block in front of the left foot. Now we have a tendency to roll forward here with the shoulders. So bring the shoulders back so that they're stacked on top of each other and that they're in alignment with the hips. Stay really rooted through the knee of the right leg. Press the top of the right foot into the floor and rotate the chest open. Really let the heart shine forward and a little bit up. And if you want, float the top arm overhead. So this is basically a kneeling side angle. We do this standing up a lot, but we haven't done it kneeling. So it's a nice little exploration. Good. And then press into that left foot to come all the way up. And we're going to switch sides. All right, so sending the right leg out, toes are pointing toward the short edge, the back edge of the mat. Placing a block to the inside of the foot, making sure that that foot is in alignment with the knee of the left leg. Good. Inhale, long spine. Exhale, lean, just hinge over toward the right, placing the right hand down on the block to the inside of the foot. And you may notice that you have one side that feels tighter than the other, one side that there's more sensation through the hip or the side waist. If you want, sending the top arm overhead. Stay strong through the left knee and the top of the foot. And just reach through the fingertips, feeling a stretch up the side of the body and the side of the waist. Good. And come back up and back to center. Good job. All right, so we're going to face the top of the mat again, and you can move your blanket. We're going to come into downward facing dog, but we're going to bring one block in between the thighs. So place the block between the thighs, tuck the toes under, lift the hips up. Downward facing dog. And with the block between the thighs, it gives us a little bit more spaciousness through the hips and through the sacrum, which is the lower back. So bend the knees a lot, press the floor away. We're going to do our downward facing dog with bent knees today because that's also easier on the back. As soon as we start to straighten the legs, we tend to round through the back if our hamstrings are not open. So bend the knees a lot. Feel length and spaciousness in the lower back. Good. And then begin to walk the feet toward the top of the mat. Yes, the block is still between the thighs. Bend the knees a lot here. So you're crouching down with the block between the thighs. And then sweep the arms up so you're coming through chair pose. And then all the way up to standing. Exhale the hands to heart center. Good. And you can move the block. All right. So let's take a few sun breaths to warm up the shoulders here. Inhale, reach the arms overhead. Exhale, hands come down to the sides. Inhale, sweep the arms up. Exhale, hands come down. Inhale, last time, arms reach up. And exhale, hands come down. Step the feet a little bit wider now, so they're as wide as the hips or maybe even a little wider. Inhale, reach the arms up. Flip the right palm toward the ceiling. Hold on to the right wrist with your left hand and pull yourself over to the left. So the left hand is pulling the right hand over to the left. You can give a little bend to the knees and try to feel a stretch up the side body, the sides of the waist. Deep breath in, long breath out. Good. Then come back up to center. We'll switch sides. Flip the left palm to the ceiling. Hold on to that wrist with the right hand. Pull it over to the right. Nice stretch up the side of the body. Good. And back up to center. Release the hands. All right, facing the top of the mat, standing in mountain pose. So feet are hip distance and parallel. Let's take a really big step back with the right leg. So we're going to stay on the ball of the back foot. This is crescent warrior here. So there's a little buoyancy because you're on the ball of the back foot. Bend deeply into the front knee. But imagine the tailbone sinking down, drawing the lower belly in. So we have some openness happening, just like in the lunge position. Let's hook the thumbs together. Inhale, reach the arms overhead. And breathe. Bending into the front knee, pressing back through the ball of the back foot, sinking the tailbone down, drawing the navel to the spine. Good. And release the hands, step the back foot up. Now let's go to the other side, stepping the left foot way back, staying on the ball of the foot, hips are pointing forward. And then hooking the thumbs, maybe you hook the opposite way. Inhale, reach the arms up. Bend into the front knee, press back through the ball of the back foot. Draw the lower belly in toward the spine. Tailbone heavy toward the earth. Soften the shoulders away from the ears. Deep breath in. Long breath out. Good. And release. Step the back foot up. All right, stepping the right foot way back again, but this time coming into warrior two. So a little bit different with the feet. The front heel intersects with the arch of the back foot. The outer edge of the back foot is down, heel is down, and that foot is either parallel or turned in. Bend deeply into the front knee and have the knee track right over the heel and in line with the middle toe. So don't let the knee come in. Good. Hips are about 45 degrees here. Let's float the arms parallel to the earth. We'll do a little flow with breath here. So inhale, straighten the leg, reach up. Exhale, warrior two, bend deeply into the front leg. Inhale, reach up. And exhale, come down. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, bend. Good. Bring hands to hips. Bring both toes facing the long edge of the mat just for a moment, and we're going to switch right over to the other side. So turning the right toes toward the short edge of the mat, bending deeply into the front leg here, making sure the heel is lined up with the arch of the back foot, so make any little adjustments you need to. Hips are about 45 degrees. Deep bend in the front knee, float the arms parallel to the floor. And we'll flow here. Inhale, straighten the leg, reach up. Exhale, bend. Inhale, reach up, straighten the leg. Exhale, bend. Inhale, reach up. And exhale. Good. All right, bring hands to hips. Straighten the front leg. Both toes face the long edge of the mat, and we'll just heel toe the feet together. All right, so facing the front of the mat again. We're going to try warrior 1.5, which is a pose that I've learned about from a teacher called Jason Crandall. So step the back foot back. So like you're coming into that crescent warrior we just did, but the feet are more like warrior 2. So you're going to turn to the side. So that back leg is going to move out toward the edge of the mat a little bit. And the back heel is down and the outer edge of the foot is down. But it's a little bit of a shorter stance than warrior 2. And the hips are truly 45 degrees here. So they're really open. And often with warrior 2, we rotate the rib cage to the long side of the mat, but we're not going to do that. With warrior 1.5, we're going to keep the sternum and the pelvis all lined up at this 45-degree angle. Let's hook the thumbs again. Inhale, reach the arms up. So feel strong in the legs, but spacious and open through the hips and the lower back. It should feel good. It's a nice way to practice warrior 1 and take some of the torque out of the hips that the more traditional warrior 1 can sometimes apply. Good. And release. Step the back foot up. We'll try that on the other side. So taking a big step back with the left leg. Then sending the left leg toward the outer edge of the mat and start to pivot on the back foot so that your toes point at a diagonal toward the outer edge of the mat. Heels down, foot is down. Bend into the front leg. Hips and chest are truly 45 degrees here. Hook the thumbs the opposite way. Inhale, reach up. So feel pressing into both feet, especially the outer edges of both feet, the ball of the big toe. And feel how that creates a sense of spaciousness in the hips and the lower back. Draw the navel to the spine. One more deep breath here. And exhale. Release. Step the back foot up. Good job. Let's inhale. Reach the arms overhead. Exhale. Hinge and fold down. Bend the knees a lot. And bring the knees down to the mat, to all fours. And we're going to sit down. So when you get here, you can straighten the legs coming into staff pose. And why don't you, if you have a blanket close by and you want to sit up on the blanket, it can be really nice to do that. It helps us keep a neutral pelvis because we have a tendency to round through the lower back and upper back here when we're sitting with the legs out straight. So when we have the blanket, that helps us be upright and neutral in the pelvis, which is what we want. Good. All right, let's bend the right knee, and often we place the foot to the outside of the left knee, but we're not going to do that today. We're actually just going to snuggle that right foot as close into the hips as we can. And often when we do a twist here, we twist toward the bent knee. We're going to do the opposite today. We're going to twist away. So inhale, sit up tall. Exhale, take the tricep of the right leg, place it to the inside of the right knee, and then you press the tricep and the knee together, and that allows you to rotate into the twist, bring the left fingertips behind. So by doing this, we're keeping the pelvis neutral and forward, but we're rotating the upper spine here, which is what we want to do. We want to gain a lot of rotational ability through the thoracic spine, which is the mid back and the upper back. But the same principle that we always use with twists apply. Inhale, long spine, reaching the crown of the head toward the ceiling. Exhale, ease into your twist. Keep both feet firm, pointing the long leg toes toward the ceiling. Good, and then come back around to center and unbend the right knee. Give it a little shake if you want. And then we'll bend into the left knee, same thing, drawing the heel as close as we can to the hips while still sitting up tall. Inhale, reach the crown of the head up. Exhale, you're gonna twist away from that bent knee, bringing the left tricep to the left knee. Press the upper arm and the knee together. Fingertips point toward the ceiling. Bring the other hand behind. And here you are. The right leg toes point toward the ceiling. Inhale, long spine. Exhale, twist. Good. And gently release, come back to center. All right, so you can remove the blanket. We're gonna lay down. You might want to have your chair pretty close by though, so that you don't have to get up too much when we're ready to use the chair. So come on down to your back at first here. Good, and maybe you want to hug the knees into the chest again. Rock side to side. Place the soles of the feet down and the knees bent. Take the right ankle, place it on top of the left knee, so we're coming into figure four. But pause here for a moment, take the palms of both hands, press the thighs away. Give yourself a little traction in the lower back. And then soften the hands, take the hands, interlace them behind the left thigh. You can lift the left foot off the ground. Draw the left thigh toward the chest, while at the same time, imagining the right knee moves away from the shoulders. So figure four, stretching out the outer hip on the right side. Deep breaths. And then slowly lower the left foot down, uncross the right leg, and we'll come to the other side, taking the left ankle, placing it on top of the right knee. Pause for a moment, take the palms, press them into both thighs, give yourself a little traction through the lower back. Then release the hands, clasp the fingers behind the right thigh, flexing both feet, drawing the right thigh close into the chest while also bringing the left knee away from the shoulder. So there's this little opposition here in figure four. It's very, very small. It's just an energetic feeling of moving the knee away. And as you do that, you're going to get a little more sensation, a little more stretch. Good. And then release the foot down to the floor. Maybe you want to hug the knees in one more time. Gentle rock side to side. And for our restorative pose today, we're going to put legs up on the chair. So you might need to sit up just enough so that you can move your chair. You're going to have the seat of the chair facing you. And you're going to place your calves up on the chair. So if you have a hard chair like I do, you might want to use your blanket to cushion the calves. And to get in, you can sit to the side so that you're perpendicular here to the seat of the chair. Sit pretty close to the chair, and as you lean down on your forearms to come back, you float the calves and the knees, the ankles up to the chair. And then come on down. So you want to have your back resting comfortably on the floor and the lower legs and feet resting on the chair. And you can bring your hands down by your sides, palms face up, or you could leave them on the lower belly, whatever is more comfortable for you. And just begin to settle here and rest. We're resting in this pose because this allows the hip flexors, those muscles in the front of the thigh that we talked about, especially a really, really big, powerful, deep muscle called the psoas that's inside the pelvis. This position allows it to be in slack and therefore relax. And we need that muscle to relax in order to have length and strength in the lower back. So begin to let your breaths wash over you. Feeling the inhales give you a sense of expansion, of softness. And the exhales, you can imagine, are like a waterfall from the toes flowing through the knees, down through the belly, and out through the rest of the body. Inhale, you are spacious and wide. Exhale, the wash of water rushes down from the toes, the knees, down the legs, up the torso, and out the head. And if you're comfortable here, you could stay here for your Shavasana. And if you wanted to move the chair and lay the legs straight, you could also do that. But we'll just lay here in whatever resting pose works for your body today, just for a couple more minutes. Noticing the breath flowing in and out. Leaving you feel relaxed and spacious. And you could stay here for several more minutes today. This is a nice pose to do for 5 or 10 minutes. But if you're ready to close practice with me, begin to wiggle your fingers and toes a little bit. And if you've had your legs up on the chair, begin to draw the knees a little bit closer to the chest. So you're walking the calves down the chair so that the knees are very close to the chest and you can roll to one side safely. Pausing there and offering yourself a moment of gratitude for your body and everything it can do. For your fellow yogis and yoginis out there in the world. And for someone else you're grateful to have on life's journey. Use your hands to press yourself up to a seated position. Bringing the hands to the heart center in prayer. The light in me honors the light in each of you. Namaste.